Hello, Plymouth River second graders. My name is Janice McPhillips, and I work at Holly Hill Farm, which is an organic vegetable, flower, and herb farm in Cohasset. But today I'm talking to you from the Plymouth River Garden. I'm here in the garden. I'm all by myself, which is why I'm not wearing a mask. We're still in pandemic times, but I have a mask in case anybody comes by. But today I'm here in your garden to talk to you about why a garden is a great place to plant plants. And then we're going to plant something. Hopefully you can read that sign. We're going to plant something in the garden here. Now, why is a garden a good place to plant plants? Well, you are learning about erosion in your classroom studies. So you've probably learned that when it rains, water can erode soil away. It can scour away its soil, and slowly over time something like the Grand Canyon can form. Well, that's not too likely to happen here at Plymouth River School, but erosion can happen on a smaller scale, and it can cause a real problem as soil erodes when wind and water and snow melting and other forces like that erode soil. This garden bed, which is made out of wood, will protect the soil in this garden box from erosion, which makes it a great place to grow plants. So here's what we're going to do today. We are going to plant some garlic. I won't be here with you, which is why I'm making this video, to explain to you why it is on a chilly November day when I'm wearing a jacket and a fleece and gloves and a hat and I'm still cold, and why it's the right time to plant garlic in November. So hopefully you all know what this is. This is a head of garlic, or a bulb of garlic. You might see it at the grocery store, you might see it at the farmer's market, you might grow it yourself. So this head of garlic grew in the garden here last year. It was planted by second graders last year. They're now in third grade, and it grew here in the garden. So now that you are second graders, it's time for you to plant garlic. So this thing is called a head of garlic, like I said, and this head of garlic knows where its head is and where its toes are, and that's very important. Let me show you an example of what the garlic looked like after it's been drying for a few months. Okay, so it's November now. This was planted last year in November, and it grew in the garden from November until July. Let's figure out how many months that is, from November to December, January, February, March, April, May, June, July. That's 8 months of growing in the garden. That's a long time. In July, I came here in the summer with Miss Benani, actually, and we pulled the garlic out of the ground, and it's been drying ever since. There's a close-up of the head of garlic, and as you can see, this right here is the roots. This was the stem of the plant when it was growing, and these were green and growing. These were the leaves. And off the top of the plant there was a flower. This one has broken off. Let's get another one. Very tall. And at the very top there, that was the flower. It's broken off. Here's what the flower looked like up close. So this was attached like that. This garlic knows the difference between its head and its foot. The feet are where the roots come from, and the head is where the growing stem comes from. And I want you to pay attention, because I'm going to pull this head of garlic apart into individual pieces. And when we cook with those pieces, they're called cloves. Maybe you've seen a recipe for garlic, and it calls for 2 cloves of garlic. There's the head of garlic. I just chopped the stem off. It was up here. Watch what I'm going to do. Oh, wow. There's a big clove. Let's count how many cloves this head of garlic has. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 cloves of garlic. And they all have a papery skin on the outside of them. We're going to leave that papery skin on after we plant them in the ground. It helps protect the garlic that's going to be in the ground for 8 months. That's a long time, and most of it is in the winter. Now remember, when these were attached, see how the roots are down here and the stem was pointing up here? Well, you can see the garlic has a pointy end. This one's really obvious. See the point? Pointy end and a flat end, which sort of has a circle-looking seat on the bottom. That's the part that needs to be planted in the ground, feet side down. And that's important because if you were to put the garlic in the ground like this, pointy side down, what do you think might happen? Well, I'll pause for a minute to let you think about that. And then I'm going to show you what happens if you do plant a garlic upside down. Here is an example of a garlic that was planted upside down. The pointy part was aimed down at the ground, and when the growing stems started to grow, it was looking for something that it didn't find. What do you think that something was that it was looking for? Up in the sky, it's yellow and bright. The answer is sunshine. You know that. Did it find sunshine down, down, down deep in the dirt? No, so it made a U-turn like this. It went growing down, didn't find sunshine, so it turned and made a U-turn and went all the way up. And then eventually it grew a stem and leaves. But we don't want to make it any harder for that garlic to grow than it ought to be. So please plant your garlic right side up. So I prepared this garden bed for planting. I took all the weeds out of the soil. There were a lot of them. There's a few left. And now I'm going to make the soil even more healthy for growing by adding some compost. So this is compost from the compost bins that are over by the gate. I'm going to add some compost from the compost bin. So this is decomposed food scraps from the cafeteria, plus some leaves that were in the compost bin for a while. And you can still see there's some little chunks of leaves here that are not fully decomposed, but that's okay. Here's what the garden bed looked like before I weeded it. As you can see, lots of weeds grew here. But I cleared all of them out, and I left the soil in the garden bed and put the weeds in the compost. So I'm going to create 3 lines in this bed. And what we're going to do is everyone's going to have a turn to plant a garlic, and we have to measure very carefully between cloves because these plants are going to be growing in here for 8 months. We discussed 8 months, so they need a lot of space to grow. They also need sunshine and water. And an important thing, we're here in November, which is a very unusual time to be planting plants in a garden. Usually I think of planting seeds in, say, May or June or sometime when it's warmer. Garlic is different. It actually needs a time of cold and quiet, kind of like certain animals hibernate in the winter. Garlic needs that same cold time. So I'm going to create a line, straight line. When you walk down the hallway, you walk in straight lines. I'm going to create 3 straight lines. One here, one here, one over there. And then we're going to place the garlic about 4 inches down. It's about 4 inches down. And 6 inches apart. So for most of you, 6 inches is about the distance from the tip of your pinky to the tip of your thumb. My hand is bigger than yours, but on my hand, 6 inches is from here to here. So that's how far apart I want to plant these garlic bulbs. So I'm going to spread my hand nice and wide, and I'm going to measure from here to here, and I'm going to put the next garlic. And remember, flat side down, pointy side up. Great. And then same thing, another measure. How did I do? Good. And then push it in so just the tip is showing. Awesome. So don't cover it up because the person who's planting after you needs to be able to see where the garlic is so that they can measure. So I'm not covering this up so the next person can come over here and measure with their hand and put a garlic there. Same thing with this row. After you're done planting your garlic, when the full row is done, then you can cover up the garlics and wish them well. Say, see you next summer. And if they grow really well, which I'm sure they will, you'll be able to have garlic bread next year in the cafeteria on Harvest Day. Also, second graders, something you might remember. Last year, right around Thanksgiving time, You all came out to the garden and we spread some seaweed and leaves on the garden. Do you remember doing that? I hope you did. It was part of a special Thanksgiving set of activities that you did. Those leaves that will get put on the garden bed, we'll do it again this year. The first graders this year will do it. That also helps prevent erosion of the soil in this bed. Even though it's a flat garden bed, wind can erode soil. And if we put a heavy carpet of leaves on top of each of these garden beds, it will help protect this soil in this garden bed from eroding over the winter. And that's important because there's something very important growing underneath of that. And you know what that is? It's garlic. Great. So thanks for growing in your garden bed here at Plymouth River School. Bye-bye. Thanks for watching.